Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now November 15th of 2022, and we just have one episode of Star Wars Andor remaining until the show comes to an end, before they move on to Season 2, as well as The Bad Batch Season 2, Mando Season 3, Ahsoka, and a whole lot more on the horizon. That's really going to steer Star Wars in a completely different path. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new universe between George, Jon, and Dave is that there's a lot of things coming from Legends as well as a lot of unapproved material way back in the day from the 1990s that George wanted nothing to do with that is now getting revived. So there's a lot of unused Legends material just sitting behind the scenes somewhere over at Lucasfilm. You know, we're talking about concept art, we're talking about rejected novels and books, storyboards, etc. that really expands Legends, bigger than it already is as of right now. Now that brings us to what Jon Favreau recently had to say about Lucasfilm as a company, the Star Wars franchise, the fandom, and a whole lot more, and the future of this massive franchise and where it's really all going. Now, we already know that Favreau has been a very talkative guy as of late for the past 6 months, really teasing things, providing fans a lot of exciting hints about specific characters and where their direction is going. He's got a lot of things in store here for the fandom, and one thing that really sticks out the most is what he recently had to say about Lucasfilm as a company and his critique on the company and how they handled Star Wars and how he's very happy about things changing right now. So, with Disney currently developing and expanding the Mandoverse, they are also focused on two other eras, of course, in the Star Wars universe as well, that is set to provide fans with tons of Legends material that they grew up with, provided by Jon and Dave. However, it's noted that in a recent interview, Favreau went on to heavily criticize Lucasfilm as a company and how it operated in the past, and how he is excited that things are now going to change. Favreau went on to say the following: "When I look back at how Star Wars was handled, I was just so sad for the fans and, quite frankly, frustrated with how Lucasfilm at the time didn't really have any idea of what they were doing. Star Wars is not just some revenue machine you can take advantage of. This is a brand, a franchise that is bigger than a series of movies. It's something special to fans' hearts more than any other franchise I have worked on, or watched for that matter." Now, the thing that Favreau says here, before I get to the next thing that he states, is he's actually putting it out there of how Disney and Lucasfilm, throughout the sequel trilogy, they were indeed using the Star Wars sequel trilogy as just this massive revenue machine, and that's what he openly says. And I think a lot of fans will agree with that. They didn't really have a lot of passion, I would say, pouring into these movies. It was more so, you know, let's cut and paste some elements of Star Wars A New Hope or past Star Wars movies and just get this wrapped up as fast as possible to get it out there. I don't know, that's what some people, you know, really feel like what happened, and that's what Jon Favreau apparently feels like what happened, is that Disney just used and abused the Star Wars brand, especially with the sequel films, as a way to rake in just a lot of revenue and to kind of just propel themselves into the Star Wars brand itself to keep on going and going, like with the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, except with that, they were doing things right for a long time. I've noticed things kind of went sideways for a little bit, but we'll see. Things are beginning to shape up there too a little bit as well. On top of that, though, Favreau goes on to say the following to the fans: "It's why I joined The Mandalorian and Lucasfilm in the first place, because I felt Star Wars needed that reboot, that refresh, just to take a moment and respect the fan base and the material that George provided us so many years ago that Lucasfilm had failed with a couple of years ago. I was ashamed where Star Wars was going a couple of years ago, but I am extremely hopeful and excited for where it's going now. We are making great changes with this company on how to actually respect the fans and listen to them carefully, and that's my job, that I want to stay true to everyone around the globe who feels that this brand needs a better direction. I can't wait for you all to see what we have in store for Mando and Ahsoka. It's going to be truly fantastic, and we have some very special announcements coming your way soon. Now, before I get to the next segment, you guys may very well not be aware that Jon has said something very familiar like this in the past, of how he was very frustrated and ashamed with Lucasfilm, like he says here, and how he really used that as a motive or as a drive to come in and sweep things up and clean the Star Wars franchise and just make it back to the roots and kind of bring things back to George's vision. Which, by the way, is what he is actually doing right now with Mando 3, Mando 4, Ahsoka. Those are going to be the 3 big installments that's really going to, like, perfect all of that. You know, Mando Season 1 and 2 was just the start of that. Book of Boba Fett was, you know, a little bit of a speed bump because Robert Rodriguez had a lot of creative pull on that. But aside from that, everything else that Jon and Dave have been working on has been pretty solid. I mean, Tales of the Jedi, amazing. I thought it was great, you know. Clone Wars, you know. Everything related to what they're trying to expand with the Clone Wars characters, right? How Ezra, Sabine Wren, Thrawn, etc. are going to be done in live-action form for Ahsoka. Now, obviously Jon cares about the fans, and he realizes that, you know, Star Wars, it's not just all about lightsabers and space battles. He gets that. But he wants to keep that family drama intact, right? He wants to keep the story of redemption intact. He really wants to keep that story alive and how it can be done properly. And that's exactly why he's working closely with Lucas every single day, to a degree, to make sure that he keeps that vision intact and keeping it stable throughout each and every show. So that brings us to the next part here, is that it's one of the main reasons why Favreau joined Lucasfilm had a lot to do with The Last Jedi, believe it or not. He actually said this before in the past, that he was very, very frustrated with how Luke was used in Episode 8 by Rian Johnson, and he felt that this was his perfect opportunity to build up with the Mandalorian, to slowly kind of get familiar, you know, get fans familiar with that era, so to speak, and then introduce the Luke that all fans wanted to see from the very beginning. A post-Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker, right? What we all read in Legends or in the comics way back when, right? So Favreau putting it out there once again that he was very ashamed, very frustrated with Lucasfilm, and very much, you know, angry as well with how things were just not going the way that they should have. And when you look at it like that, obviously Jon Favreau had heavy criticism on the company. He's proud of where it's going now because he and Dave Filoni got heavy promotions by Disney that basically gives them a lot of creative pull, as well as some financial control over many of the existing projects that are currently in different phases of development. So that just goes to show you that things are shaping up and that things are moving forward in a better direction. So overall, guys, you know, on top of all of this, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.